Okay. Hari Om. Hari Om.
हरिओम जी।
Hari Om.
हरिओम।
Hariom sir, Hariom.
All bright and early on a Monday morning. Without further ado, let's start. Yes. Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasnavadutamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We'll begin with questions. Are there any questions for us?
So it has been said by many that we need to purify our mind. First, it means after we purify our mind, then only we will be able to move steady in this path. So knowledge is one important thing which helps in purifying the mind, but that is theoretical. What are the practical ways in which we can get our mind purified?
I'll correct you there. Knowledge is not theoretical. Information is theoretical. See, there are three paths, three disciplines. Three paths, three disciplines. It's about putting knowledge to test, putting knowledge to practice. It's about experimentation with the knowledge. There's no other practical solution. There may be certain rituals, there may be certain observations, there may be certain disciplines, physical disciplines to go with it, right? But ultimately, knowledge is the essential ingredient. Like we chant in every morning class on Tuesday and Thursday, we say, Pakasya vahni vajnanam vina moksho na siddhyate. Knowledge is to spiritual growth, like cooking is to fire is to cooking, an essential ingredient, the enabler, perhaps something that speeds up cooking. Otherwise, cooking will take a long time. So, putting knowledge to practice in experiment is karma yoga. Take what you hear back with you to your life and start with little experiences. You can't fast track. Even the understanding of knowledge cannot be fast tracked. See, a student takes years and years and years to graduate. Graduation doesn't happen overnight. The rare child will be a prodigy, skip, graduate at the age of 12, go to college at the age of 15, get a PhD by the age of 70. The rare child. Most of us have to go through a gradual process. So you can't fast track this. Even your understanding of knowledge will deepen only with experience, only with time. So, कबीरा मन निर्मल भयो जैसे गंगा नीर पीछे पीछे हरि फिरे कहत कबीर कबीर. You have to purify your mind. Then God will come chasing after you. But that purification of mind, it's a tapasya, it's an Agni Pariksha, which happens after a lot of, I won't say trial and error, but putting knowledge to work, implementing
Sorry,
it.
my connection was disconnected. I lost you.
So I said that this purification of mind is a result of a lot of, you can say, tapas. It's a result of a lot of engineered effort of putting knowledge to work. It may seem theoretical because it appears contrary to our nature, or it appears contrary to what we've practiced so far, right? But that doesn't mean it's theoretical. Also, it may seem very different from what everybody else around you is thinking, but that's always been the case. There's never been a majority. आपको गीता को मानने वाले बहुत मिलेंगे, बट गीता की मानने वाले बहुत कम मिलेंगे. वेदांत को मानने वाले बहुत मिलेंगे, बट वेदांत की मानने वाले बहुत कम मिलेंगे. ये it's almost Sanatan, this fact. This fact itself is Sanatan. So, but that doesn't make it theoretical. See, when you have the clarity of knowledge, and that only comes through adhyayan, through study like this. I was just at with a few family members, and like in any discussion, always naturally the discussion veers into people and who said what and who did what, and even a seemingly good meaning discussion turns into a criticism or a unnecessary, and people will talk about and about and about and about different experiences. But if you have knowledge, you'll be able to see one single thread connecting everybody's behavior. The only two variables are attachment and ego. That's it. So it's when knowledge settles down, when it, and that comes through manan, you have to reflect, contemplate, study, question. When that knowledge settles down, you'll be able to simplify a lot of things and experiences around you. It'll be almost easier to practice it. That doesn't take away the effort it takes in practice. And slowly, with self-correction, you purify this mind of yours. As we say, you can't control what thought comes up in you, but you can control what thought you promote. That's a practice. I don't know what can get more practical than this. Of course, it requires a little bit of self-conscious effort. You have to step back and try to be as conscious of what thoughts are passing through your mind. But this is perhaps one of the subtlest practices. This thought is not helpful to me. Dismiss it. This thought is helpful. Pursue it. Promote it. It's perhaps the most practical. So, if by practical you mean some jadoo ki chhadi, I don't have it. There's no jadoo ki chhadi. But thought by thought, putting it into practice is the only long drawn way. Your entire everything else is a support system. The Bhakti Marga is a support system. Rituals and pilgrimages are a support system around all of this. It gives you a conducive experience, a conducive environment to redouble your inspiration, to get that satsang. Everything is a support system. But this jnanam is like fire to cooking. I hope that answers the question. अगर आप में मल थोड़ी सी है तो वो हवा के झोंके से धुल जाएगी. अगर आप में मल बहुत गहरी है तो उसे रगड़ना पड़ेगा. हाँ,
अभी तो
शायद
शायद लग रहा है मल अभी वो बेबी के फीटस की तरह है.
हिम्मत मत हारो, उसे समय लगेगा. कुछ मल बेबी के फीटस की तरह है, कुछ मल धूल की तरह है, कुछ मल ऐसे ही स्मोक जैसा है, राइट? So we have all a combination of mal. Some will take time, some is almost automatic. Anji, Prachi, or Ankit, whoever has a question.
Yes, so Ji, last class we were discussing, the distinction between the spirit, the Atman, and the matter, the body, mind, and intellect, and establishing and using evidence to establish this belief that our body, we are divided into spirit as well as matter. My question is, how does knowledge of this distinction of ourselves into spirit and matter augment or forward our goal of realizing our inner self? Like, okay, once I know I'm constituted of the Atman as well as the body, mind, and intellect, how does this knowledge or belief in this assumption help us in that goal of realizing our inner self?
Thank you for this question. I really thank you for this question, because this is such an obvious question which nobody asks. What is this inner self that we're talking about? We're throwing this word around: self-realization, self-realization. What is this inner self? What are you trying to realize? Is it a deeper aspect of your personality that you're trying to realize? Is it some past event or past entity that you're trying to realize? 3 janmas ago, I was this person. Is that what you're trying to realize? What are you trying to realize? Is it some innermost thought that you're trying to realize? When we use the word self, the self means Atman. See, when we say, I want to realize myself, that self is an unknown term. We don't know what it is. We're just giving it a name. We're calling it self. I don't know what I am. I don't know where I landed. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know who I am. No. That I is an unknown. We first of all appreciate that the self we are trying to realize, recognize, is unknown. This journey comes about because we are lost in the world. We, after some amount of playing around, after some amount of engagement and involvement in the world, after some amount of titillation from the world, after some amount of excitement from the world, suddenly we are like, what on earth are we doing? That's what prompts the question, but we still don't know who we are looking for. So that's the first thing to appreciate. You know not who you are. That self is an unknown term. It's a name given to you and unknown. Therein comes Vedanta, and simply posits. You know the meaning of posits? It
Yes.
inserts. And it inserts. To position means to posit, right? It posits. Right now it's a concept. It posits a concept of the Atman. So I was going to start the class with this. I'm glad for this question. The idea of the Atma, is not a random hallucination of some meditating sage. The reason we are talking about these corroboratory evidences for the Atman is because we're trying to relate it to our own experience. It's not a random experience of one person. It's an experience you and I go through each and every day in life, each and every moment. And what are those three experiences? First of all, we seem to have a possessor who is possessing all our equipments and our experiences. My body, my mind, my hands, my feet, my eyes, my ears. The moment you say my, you've separated the eyes from the me that possesses the eyes. The moment you said my ears, you separated the ears from the me that possesses the ears. My thoughts, you separated the me from the person who is the thoughts being thought. My feelings, you separated the me from the actual feeling, right? So there's a separation. What is that separation? We casually throw it around. There seems to be something separate from your physical or non-physical possessions. There seems to be a possessor separate from your possessions. Second, you go through each and every experience, you observe a change. Your physical body is changing, your mind is changing, your intellect is changing, your feelings and emotions and beliefs and ideas and everything is changing. Now, it's this concept of science that change is only visible from a changeless vantage point. So there appears to be something unchanging in you, some entity unchanging in you. That appears to be noticing all of this change happening in and through time, in and through experiences. Everything about you is changing, but there's something in you that's unchanging. That you is unchanging. What is that? Can you describe it to me? Can you pinpoint this thing in me that is not changing? We can't pinpoint it, but there appears to be something. Third thing, we throw around this word I. I am happy, I am sad, I am tall, I am short, I am a friend, I am a enemy, I am a brother, I am a sister, I. This I, distinct and different from the various roles and responsibilities you assume, these various material equipments you have. So this I, this me, this changeless me, that is separate from everything about you. There appears to be something. We don't know what it is. That something we call the Atman. And Vedanta says when you talk about self-realization, when you say find yourself, this is what you're trying to find. You're trying to find the answer to what this I is. So the concept that we're introducing of the Atman is one and the same as the self that we're trying to realize, that we're trying to know. So it's clearing a misconception. You're not trying to know anything deeper about your thoughts. You're not wanting to know anything deeper about your feelings. These all belong to your intellect. These all belong to your mind. You're not wanting to know anything deeper about your body. What you're seeking to realize is something beyond your body, beyond your mind, beyond the intellect. There's something that there is. We don't know quite what it is. Now, the ultimate declaration of a when you read the Upanishads, the Guru tells the student, Tattvamasi, that thou art. You are the Atman, you are not this entity, this individuality. The Atman, unconscious of itself, ignorant of its real identity, having assumed an individuality, that's called the ego. The ego is nothing but the Atman identifying with the body, mind, and intellect. That's the ego. It's a false identification. But it's come about because of ignorance, because you've lost your true identity. Because of that, you assume this ego. But perhaps the profound declaration, perhaps one of the most profound declarations, it's one of the Mahavakyas, Tattvamasi. You are that Atman, you are not this body, not this mind, not this intellect. That's the teacher telling you. When you gain the conviction yourself through sadhana, you roar like a lion. Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi means I am that Brahman. I am the Atman. Incidentally, there's another Mahavakya which says, I am Atma Brahma. This Atman is Brahman. So Atman equals Brahman. Tattvamasi, you are the Atman. I am Atma Brahma means Atman equals Brahman. And when you have the realization yourself, so far it's just someone else telling you, when you have the realization of yourself, you say Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Atmasmi, in that sense, right? Atman equals Brahman. So I am that Atman. That's self-realization. So this concept of the Atman is a precursor to the very culmination of this journey. What we are trying to know is this Atman. What is this? Your current individuality, your current name, your current role, your current engagement. In the Upanishads, it's called Nama Rupa. You have assumed a name and a form. एक आपने रूप धारण कर लिया है और उसको एक नाम दे दिया है. ये नाम रूप जो है ये सनातन नहीं है. It's temporary, it's passing. इस नाम रूप में छिपा वो आत्मन, वो सनातन है. That Atman is Sanatan. So, gaining that sense of objectivity from you to your own self, to your own individuality, assuming the role of the Atman, it's called Sakshi Bhav. It's a practice. Watching your body perform, watching your mind perform, watching your intellect perform. That's spiritual growth. So as you grow, you refine your understanding and your practice of identifying with the Atman. You understand that sadhana is nothing but a separation of you from your material equipments, a separation of you from your body, mind, and intellect. What's happening in meditation? In meditation, you're leaving your body behind. First and foremost, you're leaving your body behind. You're losing consciousness of the body. You're trying to go into the inner world. And in this inner world, you're trying to leave the mind and the intellect behind. Silence is the absence of mind and intellect. Silence is not just physical sound. It's not just in this physical sound, but it's the mental sound that you're trying to quieten, remove, eliminate. You're trying to transcend the body, transcend the mind, transcend the intellect. To find that unknown self, which we are calling the Atman. So we know not what the Atman is, we simply know there is something. That's the position that Vedanta is taking. We know not what the Atman is, but we are positing there is something. That something is a lost and found game. We are trying to find it. We're trying to figure our way out through this maze of life to find that. आप उसे ढूंढने आए हो. That's your ultimate goal as a human being, whether you know it or not. Now we get lost in this maze, in the entanglements of the world. We forget that's our goal. We get involved in something or the other, in business, in family, in pleasure, in name, in fame, in all sorts of, and completely consumes us to a point where we forget that this was our intended goal. So to slowly disentangle ourselves and refocus our efforts on this journey is the spiritual path. Incidentally, it helps us. Incidentally, making this shift, gaining objectivity, helps us manage everything else well. Which is why the spiritual lectures double up as a self-help as a self-help program. But that's not the only or intended application. Does that answer your question?
That answers my question. Yeah. I have a follow-up question.
Yes.
You said right now that this realization of the inner self, of ourself, of the Atman, is the culmination of a journey. So once you're approaching the end point of this, okay, say you're gaining an awareness of the Atman, or for someone who does have an awareness of the Atman, so the remainder time that is left in this body, mind, and intellect, what is the journey for them then?
After they have this thing called enlightenment. So there are two schools of thought. There are two schools of thought which talk about this possible. I mean, again, it's all theoretical right now.
Yeah.
But there are two schools of thought which the two schools of thought are Jivan Mukti and Videha Mukti. Mukti is another term for enlightenment, for realization. So Jivan Mukti means Mukti within this Jivan, in this lifetime, while you are living. Videha Mukti means, Deha means body, Videha means no body or without body or after body. So only after you shed this body do you gain Mukti, enlightenment, realization. So at least as far as now, we don't openly advocate because it's all at this point it's all theoretical, right? But when it comes to Advaita Vedanta proposes that it is Jivan Mukti is totally possible. Otherwise, how else will we have how else will any individual ever even convincingly talk about this process, talk about this experience, if they haven't actually experienced it and lived to tell the tale, either through their teachings or through their association, right? So they promote the idea of Jivan Mukti, that is liberation, realization within this lifetime, in this body. And thereafter they simply live. Now what that means is there are two kinds of vasanas that you have. There is, it's going to a slightly separate discussion, but it's called Prarabdha Vasanas and Sanchita Vasanas. Sanchita Vasanas are what you burn away in the process of mukti, in the process of spiritual growth. Prarabdha vasanas are not those that cannot be burnt. It's the reason you and I exist here today is because of our prarabdha vasanas. The reason we have this deha, the reason we are jivat, this jivan is because of prarabdha vasanas. So as long as you have a jivan, a body, you have prarabdha vasanas. So a person who has attained mukti is one who has eliminated, transcended all his sanchita vasanas, but still has some prarabdha vasanas. That's why he's living. Imagine a car that is moving that is suddenly turned off. A car that is moving that is suddenly turned off. Nowadays, some of these cars, don't try it in these modern cars. Back in the day, you could do it. If you have access to any of these old cars, car is moving, just turn it off. When you go, incidentally, if you go to the hills, this is what the people do. They're driving these Maruti 800s or these, these Baleno type cars. Coming downhill, they'll turn off the car. You'll save petrol. So even on a plain road, if you are moving at a certain velocity and you turn off the ignition, it means no more acceleration is being given. Whatever remainder momentum is there, it simply moves with that and slowly comes to a halt. So in a person who is enlightened while living, there's no more vasanas being created, no more acceleration. You and I right now, through our engagement, involvement, attachment, are not only manifesting past vasanas, but creating further vasanas. Now we're creating further attachments, further tendencies. For a person of realization, he's just watching it pass. He's watching his body perform action. He's watching his mind think and feel emotion. Until death. Death is called Mahasamadhi. So which is why when we talk about a saint, his realization is called Samadhi and his death is called Mahasamadhi. Now, whether all of this is possible, Jivan Mukti, Videha Mukti, let's get near Mukti first. Even getting near Mukti will be free from most things. So there's no point. Tomorrow you might say, no, I don't believe in Jivan Mukti. I think Videha Mukti makes more sense. Okay. We'll agree to disagree, or we'll agree not to even talk about these kind of things until we actually get a certain way.
Yeah.
Let's get onto the path of Mukti first. Let's get onto the path of Mukti. Let's make Mukti our goal itself. Then we'll talk about it. But yes, there are these two schools of thought which talk about two different possibilities.
Thank you. Is Sakshi Bhav also a practice? Like it's something which you can get better at by just doing it constantly?
See, as a practice, as an automatic result of knowledge, manan, reflection, you become more and more sakshi. You become less and less impulsive. Sakshi is like taking a step back. So you can practice it also. Give thy ears to all, but few thy voice, said Shakespeare. Resist the urge to impulsively say something. Take a step back and become a better listener. That's Sakshi. What are you doing in listening? When you're listening, you're observing. Listening is an observation. There are two stages to listening. You're listening to outside thoughts. Someone else speaking something, you're listening to inner thoughts. Both are a listening of different degrees, right? So Sakshi also is at two different levels. First of all, you have to become Sakshi to outer experiences. Try it at a dinner table with family. Sakshi. Outer Sakshi. Forget the inner Sakshi. First, practice outer Sakshi Bhav. At a dinner table with family, Now elections are around the corner, political conversations. Sakshi. One side is mudsliding, the other side is throwing something else. Otherwise, what happens? We get the urge to jump into it, and before the other person completes their thought, no. Just watch. A lot of impulses will come in you. Just watch. Watch the madness. Outer Sakshi. Then we'll talk about inner Sakshi. But there are stages. It happens in stages, right? And automatically, when you see, go back to the chronology of action. Go back to the chronology of action. What prompts action? Desire. What is a desire? It's nothing but snowballed thought, right? So to be Sakshi means to temporarily withdraw oneself from impulsive action, which means to not let this thought flow snowball. This is the chronology of Sakshi Bhav also, right? You're moving backwards. So, to resist impulsive action itself is a practice of Sakshi Bhav. Meditation is 100% Sakshi Bhav. Meditation is 100% Sakshi.
उत्सव जी, मैं कुछ कहना चाहता हूँ
हाँ जी,
कि साक्षी भाव तो देखिए, अष्टावक्र की पूरी गीता ही साक्षी भाव के ऊपर है। अगर साक्षी भाव समझ में आए तो अष्टावक्र की गीता पढ़िए बस। रही बात एनलाइटनमेंट की, देखिए कबीर के दोहे, जितने भी दोहे सुनिए, उसने पूरा कभी पढ़ा नहीं, कभी उसने कागज को छुआ तक नहीं। उसकी जितनी भी नॉलेज उसकी थी, उसको उसने कन्वर्ट किया इनटू विजडम। उसका एक एक दोहा तो इतना इतना प्रोफाउंड नॉलेज है कि उसी में आपका देखिए, इन्होंने पूछा कि भाई समझ होने से, नॉलेज होने से, अपना आत्म की नॉलेज होने के बाद क्या होगा। कबीर ही एग्जाम्पल है। कबीर है, बहुत लोग हैं हमारे हिंदुस्तान में, तो बहुत लोग हैं जिनको एनलाइटनमेंट हुआ। तो कबीर इज वन ऑफ द ग्रेटेस्ट एग्जाम्पल। उसकी पहले तो उसने पहले गाना ही ये लिखा था कि आया है किस काम को, क्यों सोया चादर तान के, अरे सूरत संभाल और गाफला, अपना आप पहचान ले। तो ये जो जो अपने आप को पहचानने के लिए उसने सबसे पहले यही गाना लिखा था। तो उसको एनलाइटमेंट हुआ तो क्या कहा ना उसने। तो ये जो हम उसके और सिंपल दोहे से भी हम लोग बहुत कुछ समझ सकते हैं। तो बहुत ज्यादा कसरत करने की जरूरत नहीं है। उनको दोहे को अगर हम समझ लें तो इतना ज्यादा गूढ़ ज्ञान अपने आप ही आना शुरू हो जाएगा। मेरा इतना ही कहना है।
100% जी, 100%। प्रॉब्लम इज, देखिए अब उपनिषद जिन्होंने लिखा वो यही कहते हैं, अरे ये सब क्या पढ़ने की जरूरत है, उपनिषद ही समझ लो। और लोग उपनिषद नहीं समझते इसलिए गीता लिखनी पड़ी। गीता ही समझ लो, लोग गीता नहीं समझते इसलिए वेदांता ट्रीटीज लिखनी पड़ी। अब लोग वेदांता ट्रीटीज भी नहीं समझते हैं तो उसे भी एलैबोरेट एक्सप्लेन करना पड़ता है। बट यस, एसेंशियली आपके खुद के मनन से ही आप इन सरल चीज़ों को एक सरल सरल भाव से आप समझ पाओगे। एंड दैट इज द ब्यूटी ऑफ कबीर। हाँ, इतनी डेंस थॉट को इतनी इजी वे में एक्सप्रेस करना, इट्स एन आर्ट, इट्स ब्यूटीफुल। ओके,
आपकी कार खराब हो जाए तो आप इंजीनियर के पास नहीं ले जाते, आप मैकेनिक के पास ले जाते हो, क्योंकि मैकेनिक को ज्यादा नॉलेज होती है कार क्यों खराब हुई है। तो आप देखिए, उसने अपनी अपनी समझदारी से पूरी नॉलेज उसने जो इकट्ठी की है, वो नॉलेज है उसकी जो उसके काम आती है। इंजीनियर कभी आपकी कार को ठीक नहीं, वो डिजाइन के बारे में बता देगा, बड़ी बड़ी चीजें बता देगा, कि उसको अपना एक्सपीरियंस नहीं होता।
Existence of the I in everyone's life. It runs through your entire lifespan. You claim, say, I am well, runs through the I in the waking state and in the deep sleep, but every filter to investigate its presence and purpose in life.
Okay, so this is where we had concluded. Now we will continue with our discussion. The I, the three corroboratory evidences of the I, simply posit the concept of the self. Just to make a point that this is not some random and vague claim of any one person, right? There is a reason behind positing this concept of the Atman in Vedanta.
In a puppet show, the artist is not seen by the audience. From his unseen position, he manipulates a number of wires to activate the puppets. The audience is thrilled at their movement and gesture. Children look upon the inert objects as free agents. Consider them to be independent actors. They are not grown up to visualize the wires and the artist behind the show. But others with a limited insight spot the wires, yet fail to recognize the artist behind it. They are quite complacent to believe that the wires are the cause of the show. But the intelligentsia go beyond the wires, understand and appreciate the work of the artist behind it all. Likewise, ignoramuses look at the world with wonderment, consider beings as free agents, have no clue of anything beyond the external manifested world. They give all importance to the physical body and its actions. The more intelligent recognize the inner strings of the mind and intellect playing upon the otherwise inert objects. But those with spiritual insight see the supreme unmanifest power as the primal cause of the manifest world of beings. Perceive the divine conductor of the orchestra of life, while the ignorant, out of sheer intellectual fatigue, dismiss the existence of the transcendental being. You would be wise to study the human composition thoroughly. Go through the process of self-analysis. Practice the appropriate spiritual discipline. Develop deeper philosophic insight and pursue the evolutionary path until you discover the Supreme Self. Attain spiritual enlightenment. Composite personality. The Supreme Self, Atman, is the core of your personality. The Atman enlivens the body to perceive and act, enlivens the mind to feel, the intellect to think, contemplate. However, the type of perception and action, feeling and thought emanating from the body, mind, and intellect will all depend upon one's inherent nature, vasanas. If the vasanas' basic nature is good, the expressions will be good. If bad, the expressions will be bad. Similarly, brilliant or dull, evolutionary or devolutionary according to the vasanas. As the vasanas, so the thought, feeling, perception, and action. You must conceive a complete picture of a human being with his built-in anatomical, physiological, psychological, and philosophical structures.
So human being is a composite personality. We've talked about the corroboratory evidence of positing the Atman, and it's up to an individual to exercise his insight to use the greatest gift of nature, which is the buddhi, to discover this Atman, to discover that beyond simply the performance of the puppet show, the puppet is not acting independently. There are wires that are making them act. So similarly, your body is like a puppet, but beyond this body, there are wires that are determining how the body moves and functions. It's your mind and intellect, it's your feelings and thoughts and ideas that determine your body and its performance. But what is behind the powers of the body, mind, intellect themselves? What enables them? What enlivens them? There is something else, as the puppet master. So you give that beautiful example. Someone with deep philosophical insight alone realizes that there's a puppet master managing these wires. These wires are not just dangling by themselves. Your body, mind, intellect are not just free agents or entities. They're all glued and controlled by something. What is that something? So this composite personality is only to clarify what all we are talking about. You are the Atman, self plus matter. So Atman plus vasanas, all matter can be consolidated into this thing called vasanas. Now vasanas further manifest as thoughts in the intellect, feelings in the mind, and actions and perceptions in the body. The kind of vasanas you have will determine the nature of your intellect, the nature of your mind, the nature of the body. The intellect itself is, or let's start from this side, the body possesses broadly organs of perception through which you perceive and organs of actions through which you act. So your organs of perception, your senses, make you the perceiver, whereas your organs of action, your hands, feet, your excretory organs, the various organs with which you perform action, make you the actor. So in the body, you're performing two functions. You're a perceiver, perceiving sense objects, and actor, performing actions. Similarly, in your mind, the role you are assuming through the mind is that of the feeler. You're feeling emotions, you're feeling thought, you're feeling desires. So your host of emotions, likes, dislikes, desires, that's the vessel of the mind. And through the mind, you are assuming the role of the feeler. The Atman functioning through the body is the perceiver. The Atman functioning through the body is the actor. The Atman functioning through the mind is the feeler. Similarly, the Atman functioning through the intellect. Now, the intellect itself is of two types: Sthula and Sukshma. Sthula Buddhi and Sukshma Buddhi. Gross intellect and subtle intellect. Gross intellect is the part of the intellect that deals in the world, deals with things and beings around you. Which is engaged in the discovery and understanding the nature of the world. So thoughts of the world pertain to the gross intellect, and through the gross intellect, you are the thinker. Rarely do you come across thinkers. Everybody is a feeler, but rarely is a person a thinker. And lesser than that even is the contemplator. Now, what is a contemplator? The other aspect of the buddhi is called the sukshma buddhi. That part of your intellect which thinks beyond the world. So thoughts of the world pertain to the gross intellect. Thoughts beyond the world. Thoughts questioning the very nature of existence. The philosophical part of your intellect. The mystical part of your intellect. It's called the subtle intellect. And through that part, you become the contemplator. You posit the concept of reality, the concept of Atman. You engage further in spiritual concepts and try to discover or find answers to the mystery that is the world. The contemplator. So the intellect itself is of two types: that which engages in the world and that which extends beyond the world, the contemplator. The Atman functioning through the intellect becomes the thinker. The Atman functioning through the subtle intellect becomes the contemplator. At any point, these are the 5 different roles you are performing. You are the perceiver, the actor, the feeler, the thinker, and the contemplator. He continues.
The Atman functioning through the organs of perception becomes the perceiver and perceives the sense objects of the world. Color and form through the eyes, sound through ears, smell through nose, taste through tongue, and touch through skin. The perceiver is therefore the combined seer, hearer, smeller, taster, toucher. That makes one part of the physical personality. The other part is the actor, created by the Atman functioning through the organs of action. The actor executes actions. The perceiver and the actor together form the physical personality. Again, the Atman functioning through the mind creates the feeler and feels emotions like joy and sorrow, love and hate, affection, passion, anger, etc. The feeler constitutes the emotional personality. The third equipment in a human is the intellect. The intellect is of 2 types, the gross and the subtle. They play distinct roles in life. The gross intellect is that which operates within the periphery of the terrestrial world. It is the discriminating faculty with which one distinguishes between the pairs of opposites therein. The world is constituted of innumerable pairs such as heat and cold, joy and sorrow, right and wrong, etc. The gross intellect makes this distinction, also deals with profound themes of science and technology. All this would still be classified as gross by virtue of its field of operation being terrestrial. The Atman expresses through the gross intellect as the thinker, the intellectual personality conceiving thoughts pertaining to the world. Distinct from the gross is the subtle intellect which distinguishes the transcendental from the terrestrial, which conceives the possibility of the eternal reality beyond the ephemeral world, discerns spirit from matter. The Atman expresses through the subtle intellect as the contemplator, the spiritual personality conceiving the self distinct from the material equipments and their manifestations. Hence, a human is the self functioning through his body, mind, and intellect, creating a hyphenated personality, perceiver, actor, feeler, thinker, and contemplator. A synthesis of his physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual personalities. The Atman is said to be a homogeneous mass of pure consciousness, the same in all beings, immaculate, unconditioned. Yet it appears conditioned by the material equipments. Functioning through the body, mind, and intellect, it becomes the conditioned consciousness, the human being. Nevertheless, the immaculate Atman is omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. like the sun above, whose rays are all powerful, all pervading. The sun above is singular, untainted, unconditioned, but its reflections are manifold in the numerous reflecting media. It appears tainted, conditioned by the properties of the media. The sun seen through a blue mirror appears blue, through a dirty mirror, dirty, through a broken mirror, broken. Similarly, the Supreme Self that you are appears tainted, restrained by the limitations of the equipments through which it functions, and becomes the limited, restricted human being.
So this last point is very important for your consideration, for your contemplation. The Atman is unconditioned. The Atman is unaffected by the body, the mind, the intellect. It appears conditioned. When I say you are the Atman, Tattvamasi. Now, some person appears very happy, some person appears very sad and depressed, some person appears very smart, some person appears very dull, some person appears very handsome, some person appears not so handsome. Physically, mentally, intellectually, however. Now, this appearance is like the sun appearing through any reflecting medium. The sun above is immaculate, unaffected, untainted. But you see the sun reflected in a glass, it'll assume the properties of the glass. It appears to assume the properties of the glass. Actually, that's not affected. It's what you see. Actually, nothing has happened to the sun. Just because you see the sun through a blue glass, it appears blue. Just because you see the sun through a dusty, dirty glass, it appears hazy. But the sun is actually unaffected. So your Atman is actually unaffected. It's only that this medium, this mass of material personality, this body, mind, intellect, the nature of the body, mind, intellect is what is making it appear conditioned. It's actually unconditioned. And when you gain that Sakshi Bhav, you will realize this. My body is feeling hot or cold, my Atman is not. My mind is feeling happy or sad, my Atman is not. My intellect is feeling sharp or dull, my Atman is not. The Atman is the same in a saint, the same in a sinner. The Atman is the same in a beggar, the same in a king. It's immaculate. Pure consciousness. Last before we conclude.
The Atman, the pure consciousness functioning thus through the body, becomes conscious of perception and action. Through the mind becomes conscious of emotion. And through the intellect becomes conscious of thought. The pure consciousness becomes conditioned by the equipments. When a spiritual seeker rises above his body, mind, and intellect and their objects of consciousness, transcends the limitation of perception and action, emotion and thought, the conditioning ceases. The individuality is no more. He merges with the pure absolute consciousness. It is akin to the phenomena of reflection and sunlight. When the reflecting medium is removed, the reflected image disappears. What remains is the all-pervading sunlight.
So enlightenment is nothing but removal of the reflecting medium, removal of the body, removal of the mind, removal of the intellect. What remains is the Atman. So the spiritual journey is this ultimate negation. A gradual, slow process of the elimination of the ego. Incidentally, as you eliminate the ego, your life prospers. Incidentally, as you eliminate the ego, you enjoy life. You gain a lot of strength. But ultimately, through this elimination of the ego, you attain your ultimate purpose, which is self-realization. What remains is the Atma. We'll conclude class out here. We'll continue with this topic, with this discussion on Wednesday. I'll take up any quick questions. Okay. If there are no quick questions, then we shall conclude today. We'll see you again on Wednesday at 8 a.m. Have a good day. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Thank you, sir. You too have a good